Okay, this will be interesting. This video is not like all the other ones planned. This is primarily just a way for me to vent about the wonderful and yet terrifying world of storytelling. Because there are a lot of different ways to do storytelling. You may be familiar with movies, you may be familiar with books, obviously. But it also extends to other forms in other countries. For example, manga and anime in Japan, folk tales, poems, haikus. Trust me, it gets everywhere. It gets everywhere. Storytelling is like a beautiful disease that we sometimes inflict ourselves with and sometimes we cannot get rid of. But can you imagine if we did? The world would probably be worse off for it. This is Kat the Crowing Author here at the Magic Library, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the wonderful and sort of detrimental world of storytelling. Before I get started, I do have a little bit of a shout out to give to my dear friend Darkshade Nephilim. We haven't talked in a while. I've hardly been on Twitch whenever he's been on there, but he did comment on my latest book trailer for Seraphim Awakening. Seraphim Awakening is coming out January 3rd. Please go and buy it, and if you've not bought it yet, please buy Arboriah Lux. And he commented that in one of his latest videos, he actually tagged me in the description. And I am so incredibly thankful for friends like him that I have that are one of the ones that are not actually based in America, but based around the world. He's very, very sweet, and he's an absolute joy to just talk to and also to just watch him do gameplay. Because I was tagged in the description of the video, I decided to watch it. He was watching Devil May Cry 5, or he was playing Devil May Cry 5. And when I first listened to it and everything, I was thinking, the immediate thought that came to my mind, oh my god, Johnny Young Bosch is in this, and he plays the protagonist. So I was like, wow, okay. I know Johnny Young Bosch because I actually once met him at an anime convention, but I also know him from his numerous works. You guys may know him too if any of you guys are hardcore anime fans. You may know him as Ichigo from Bleach. He was also Izahara Orihara in Durarara. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But he has played a number of roles that we are familiar with in our long history of storytelling. And it's also good to see that he's still getting work because he is one of probably the most iconic voice actors alongside Crispin Freeman, J. Michael Tatum, Brian, oh, what is his name? Brian McIntyre, I think it is. If you guys are watching this, I'm sorry. I'm just now getting back into anime and again, and I'll get to that in a later bit. But Matthew Mercer, Travis Willingham, basically the entirety of the cast of Critical Role here on YouTube and also on Twitch. All of these voice actors are just very instrumental in just how we tell our stories and everything, because they give voice to the characters that we see. And I've been thinking about storytelling as a whole, and that's sort of what we're getting into here. Anyway, thank you Darkshade Nephilim for the wonderful tag in the description of your latest video, and please reach out to me on Discord. It's been a while since we've talked, and I would very much like to catch up and everything. I know it's been a while. I know you typically work or do your live streams during the night, and now I'm going strictly back to night shifts, so this will be interesting. But anyway, thank you so much for being the awesome international friends that I have. And now, on to the video! Okay, so like I said in my little spiel, shout out to Darkshade Nephilim, I've been thinking about storytelling and about how voice actors give voices and personalities to the characters that we see in Japanese media and everything, or the English dub of Japanese media. Yeah, I've just gotten back into anime, and let's just say it has been torture! I mean, I literally have forgotten how extremely stressful even the most lighthearted anime can be for me. And it's because, I want to say it's because I get way too attached to the story, I get way too attached to the characters, and I just can't bear to see them in pain. I've recently been watching Young Justice and Justice League again because I have fully decided that I am more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan. I'm sorry for my fellow Loki fans out there, but it's just I like the story. I like the story better, the stories of DC better, primarily because it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I've grown up more with DC characters than I have with Marvel characters, but that's beyond the point. It's little debates like this that are sort of a byproduct of how much storytelling has just shaped us in our culture, in our history. And let me just go ahead and be clear, storytelling has long since outdated the written word. If you look back in history, centuries upon centuries before the change of the era, the coming of Jesus, between the in the one instance that was like before Common Era and Common Era, you will notice that there are tons of cave paintings, and all of these cave paintings do tell stories. They tell the history of those who were there. History is of course written by the victor, but this was a more innocent time. We know very little about prehistory, if anything at all, but what we do know is based off of the findings of archaeologists and also these cave paintings. Fast forward a little bit to the actual written word. The first written word, I don't know what it was, but that's because I can't read cuneiform. Cuneiform was the first written alphabet, technically, and it is probably, and that along with other pieces of artifacts like the Rosetta Stone and other things like that, we get a little bit of what it looks like in context. As our history sort of spans from pictures to words, you then get to the ancient Egyptians who used pictures and words, and most of them were talking about, of course, history written by the victors, but also that they were also telling stories about their gods and their goddesses and like the origins of such. A little bit of a side tangent here. One of my favorite Egyptian gods is Anubis, and actually from what we've seen from what we've learned about ancient Egyptian history, ancient Egyptian mythology and history, is that Anubis doesn't really make a lot of a scene. And that's primarily because of the duties that he was involved with, but that's a thing for another one. That goes into my research about different pantheons and everything, and I'll get into that in a later video. But it's during the time of the ancient Egyptians that we actually sort of see a bit of plagiarism for the first time. Around this same time, you have the ancient Greeks, who were also known for their just beautiful art styles and everything. But what we know as the ancient Greek style, we actually know of because of the Romans. The Roman Empire, as it expanded and everything, and also before that with and also before that with Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and that entire drama with Cleopatra. Blah. The Romans were indeed sort of conquerors and everything. The Romans sort of took pieces of culture from the Greeks and the ancient Egyptians and sort of took them for themselves. I found this out actually when I was in college, my first 2 years, and I was taking an art class. There is a statue of Anubis done in the Roman Greco style, and it's really, really hard to sort of take the Romans seriously with how much they've plagiarized. They had plagiarized ancient Egyptian mythology and works and Greek works and everything, but that's a neither here or there. I mean, the Romans were the first to come up with democracy and philosophy, so let's just leave that at that. Fast forwarding a whole bunch now, we will go to sort of what everybody knows and loves as the Christian religion. If I say that with a bit of a sigh, it's because technically the Christianity as we know it sort of takes a page, almost literally, from the Romans, in that wherever they went, they sort of adopted pieces of culture into themselves and they destroyed the rest. It's predominantly why we hardly know anything about the culture of Vikings, or the Celts for that matter. The only thing that we really have left of these two cultures is the stories that they told. The poetic and prose Edda in Norse mythology, the Celtic tales of some of their most influential people, and even less about the gods and goddesses that they followed. I won't even backtrack to the death of Constantine and in Constantinople, where he was once a lifelong pagan and then he became a Christian on his deathbed, or the fact that the Council of Mycenae basically picked and chose what books of the Bible were there, primarily because that's not my field. I will not get into religion when talking about storytelling, even though it is a very, 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 very important aspect to remember, that all religion starts with stories. A little bit of a side tangent here, and I do mean this. Storytelling is very influential to religion. You cannot tell me that any parable, any folktale, or anything that you've seen pertaining to any religion around the world is not directly influenced by the story that was told in order to convey it. But like I said, that's beside the point. Let's stop talking about religion and go a little bit more into let's go a little bit more into medieval Europe. Medieval Europe is also known for some of its more famous literary accolades. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table are a wonderful example of this. They were tales of chivalry, which, if you actually look up the word chivalry in a dictionary, it does not mean respect towards women or anything, or respect at all. It actually means horsemanship. So let's just say this: chivalry is dead, because name one reason why we actually do anything with horses anymore. We use horses to either ride in races and entertain people, or we use them for transportation, like if you've ever been to Mackinac Island. But again, that's beside the point. It's in the tales of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table and the adventures that they go on that you sort of see an ongoing theme of Christianity, but also the old ways and how they just sort of meld together. At one point or another, King Arthur and his knights go up against a dragon, and in medieval times and everything, dragons were known to sort of be evil. But if you go on the other side of the world, in most, but if not all Asian cultures, I knew I would get it out. In most, if not all Asian cultures, dragons were seen as were sort of seen as beings of wisdom. They were capable of human speech. They often controlled the weather. They controlled water. They controlled elements that were very instrumental to the survival or the detriment of mankind. Let's fast forward a little bit more to the Renaissance and basically how stories were being told through pictures again, and illustrated manuscripts, and then let's go a little bit, and that's basically just a entire bit about Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michael. These three artists or Michelangelo. Blah, I knew I was missing something. Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michelangelo are all known for their intense artworks and how much they shaped the Italian Renaissance. From what we know is that Leonardo da Vinci was a brilliant thinker, and he was also a brilliant artist. He studied shadows and everything that he painted, you know that he told in some sort of a story. It's the same with Michelangelo and the Sistine Chapel. I want to say I'm getting those right. Oh crap! I'm gonna have all my art major friends after me if I get this wrong. Either way, the Sistine Chapel. If you look at all the paintings in a certain order, it does tell the story of the Bible and everything, and that was basically what they wanted for the Sistine Chapel and the Vatican. It's that. Yeah, don't get me wrong. The artwork is beautiful and it's intense. I've never seen it in person, but it was nice and everything. It was certainly a way to give imagery to the stories that they had been reading as part of the Catholic Church, but also part of Christianity as a whole. So art, in a sense, we are seeing at this point is becoming more involved in the art of storytelling once again in history. Fast forward to the Romantics movement and Gothic literature, you start to see a lot more. Pieces of literature come out. I speak, of course, of Bram Stoker's Dracula, of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Invisible Man at one point, and it's important to note that these people were basically influential in the art of horror and Gothic storytelling. Because when we read it, we know that we're seeing into the past, and we're also giving all of this incredible detail about what life was like back then. Which basically is another form of storytelling in itself, is that if you're able to tell a story and you're transported back in time to whenever that was, and that's immersion. That is immersion. That is a level of immersion that I wish I can propel my writing into. But along with those stories and everything, as we get closer and closer to later years of the Common Era, we see more. We see one more work works that is really influential to the way of mystery and the way of sort of action adventure. I speak, of course, of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote every bit of the Sherlock Holmes lore that we know. And let's just say that for an ophthalmologist, he was very, very good at what he was writing. He wrote the most incredible mysteries, and if you actually look at some of the stuff that was going on during the Victorian era and everything, some of the science is actually pretty sound in his deductive abilities. I've mentioned Sherlock Holmes and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I'll get to why I mentioned those at a later date, in a later segment of this video. But let's just say that all of these stories were influential to how we shaped our culture and how we've basically shaped our media that we know today. Let's get into some recent years and see exactly what I mean. The vampire, the werewolf, the animated amalgamation of several corpses, the idea that there is a beast inside of us. Sherlock Holmes and his arch nemesis, and Professor Moriarty. Let's just say that all of these figures we've actually seen in very recent iterations of today's culture and media. Around the time of the early parts of the 20th century to the middle parts, we see a very important leap in storytelling prowess. And basically what that is that we see the emergence of the motion picture. Movies and TV shows and cartoons at that time were the pinnacle of storytelling, and that's not entirely different from how we are now. From that period on, we see just a jump in how storytelling has been influenced. But back then, they weren't writing scripts or anything. What they were doing was that they were basically taking these old stories and turning them into motion pictures. This, of course, being Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which, of course, we see with Boris Karloff in that wonderful, wonderful makeup. That was, of course, if you actually look up Boris Karloff in all of his movies and everything, you actually see that the man was very influential in the horror genre. And of course, Boris Karloff did a whole lot of other things. He did The Mummy. He played a character that resembled himself in the Broadway play of Arsenic and Old Lace. And I will forever love that movie. But besides that and everything, we see the sort of classic movies of The Mummy, of I want to say The Werewolf. I've not seen anyone about The Werewolf. I'll have to do some more research about that. But we see Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We see Dracula. I don't know if I did Dracula before, but you know. The rise of horror movies and everything basically was the leap in storytelling that we needed to get to where we are now. And if you look at through the cinematography of the ages, you will see that Dracula and The Mummy and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and all of these different classics were basically they've basically been redone and redone and redone. And it's because they're classics, and classics sometimes need to be renewed in order to reach a newer audience. Although I don't know why they remade The Mummy. I don't know why they remade The Mummy. The Brendan Fraser version is all you need. They didn't need to make another. They didn't need to redo it with Tom Cruise. Don't get me wrong, I love Tom Cruise, but they went a little nuts with it. But again, beyond the point. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson and their adventures also made it to the big screen in the form of British serials, and let's just say that it does not stop in the British in the British Airways. While true, we see a lot of versions of Sherlock Holmes predominantly within British culture, because they technically have a say in it and everything. Let's just say that there's one recent development in years that doesn't necessarily go from Sherlock's point of view, it actually goes from his enemies. I speak, of course, of one of my more favorite animes, Moriarty the Patriot. If you've not seen Moriarty the Patriot yet, please, 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 please go and see it. Go and watch it. It's a beautiful series and everything. And the fact that a lot of people have not seen it, it makes me sad. It makes me sad on a level that I basically get when I have to deal with the emotional trauma that all of Cassandra Clare's books give me. And while we've leapt back over the Pacific Ocean to Japan and everything, let's talk about anime and a little bit and basically how they tell their stories. I'll be doing a video like this probably later this week, more for the Otaku Section, because I've not done anything with the Otaku Section in a while. But let's talk about anime for a little bit. Anime and manga are probably some of the most important bits of culture that we as readers and writers can it's important to us, and it's one of the reasons why we let our styles develop and grow. I speak, of course, of fanfiction writers, because we as fanfiction writers, we absolutely love the just otherworldly sense that we get when that we see whenever we watch an anime or we read a manga, and it's very influential storytelling because of this little subculture that has emerged. I said in one of my earlier videos that it is very important for new writers to develop their style, and how I developed my style was actually through writing fanfiction. Something that I still do to this day, not only to help to continue to develop my style, but also to keep my brain occupied whenever I need a break from my big projects. And these fanfictions are more predominantly for me. They're not something that I will share with the world, primarily because if the world saw a little bit deeper into my brain, they would probably put me in a mental asylum. I've told this to people and they don't seem to believe me, but as an empath and as a creative, it's hell inside my head. But I'm getting off topic. Probably one of the most influential storytellers within the subculture of manga and anime would actually probably be the director Miyazaki, who does the Studio Ghibli films. Take a look at any of those films and tell me they're not gosh darn masterpieces. Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, all of these are very, very, very influential stories that, true, nobody does fan fiction for, but how he does storytelling is just incredible. Miyazaki is a wizard at creating these very, very full worlds that you're just peeking into, but it feels like that little peek into that world should be larger. That it should be more of a serial and not just a one-off. And I know for a fact that we will never get a serialized version of Miyazaki's work, primarily because he goes a little ham-handed in like how he just makes the length of these movies. And these movies they're good, but some of them are long. They are long. I think Spirited Away is like maybe an hour and 45 minutes, but I know that Princess Mononoke is probably 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's long. But even so, even though we won't ever get like a serial movie or anything, it's just, I will forever love Miyazaki's movies, primarily because they are that important. They are important to how I view storytelling, and to anyone out there who is a hardcore anime fan, it's going to be important to theirs too. There are a number of different stories within the Japanese sphere of storytelling that you may know and love that are very, very influential to how stories are told. I say this with Demon Slayer in mind. I say it with My Hero Academia. I say that just to sort of broaden the horizons and everything. Angels of Death, Bungo Stray Dogs, Kakaryu Bed and Breakfast for Spirits, Kiss Him Not Me, Black Butler, Angels of Death. All of these different ones are very, very profound in how their stories are being told, and some of them have not even ended yet. Black Butler is still going on, and so is My Hero Academia. Let's just say that some of those have taken such a deep, deep, dark turn that I want to read it, but at the same time I don't. My brain is already fractured enough as it is. It doesn't need to, those little fragments don't need to be obliterated into tiny little glass particles. But like I said, that's beyond the point. Storytelling now is more important than ever, and I will forever pray to whatever omnipotent God there is in any version of Earth, that people who do not believe this really need to have a wake-up call. We grew up with stories, from it being bedtime stories, folk tales, to what we have to read in school, to what we read in college, to what we read in our spare time. Storytelling is important, and it shapes our lives whether people think about it or not. Mary Shelley's book and what she did went on to inspire millions and millions of female writers, and not specifically in the horror or science fiction genre. She inspired me. It's the people that made the influential steps then that are able to give us the way to make our influential steps now. Storytelling will always be important to the Earth and its people. And I know I'm saying that as if I'm from a different planet, and sometimes I think I am, but that's beyond the point. Without storytelling, we would not be where we are today. Without writing, period, we would not be where we are today. There was a study done a number of years ago. I want to say that it's not even technically a recent study. But a number of years ago, they were trying to see how infants developed and everything, and how they developed their sense of communication. And they found that parents who did not communicate with their children basically took a part of something very influential for a child away. Their sense of communication. And without communication, to tell the parents if there was anything wrong, they simply perished. Communication and writing and all of this is very, very important to how we grow as humans. It's how we learn new concepts and ideas. It's how we learn, period. Even for a hands-on learner like me, I always have to, I would love for there to be reading so that I can just look back on it whenever I feel unsure. All of this is to say that without writing and without growing up with different stories and everything, I probably wouldn't be the person that I am today. And believe it or not, neither would any of you. You cannot say you've never read a thing in your life or you've never been told a story, because everywhere we look, we are being told stories. Storytelling has become an influential part of our life. It's in the commercials that we see, it's in the shows that we watch, it's in the things that we read, whether it be fiction, nonfiction, anything. What we read on the internet, what we read in a social media post, reading and storytelling has just been, storytelling in any form or fashion is basically our lifeblood. It's what we need to survive. And that's because our brains process the information and tells us what we need to do. I highly doubt that without the ability to read, we would be the people that we are today. I could argue and say that a little more reading probably would have made us better people, but I will not get into that here. But just know that I use reading and writing synonymously with storytelling, because no matter what genre we decide to read, it's still a story being told. Whether it be true or false, what we read and how we interpret that story is what makes us who we are. And let's just say that that's a lesson I don't think many people realize anymore. And I guess it's sort of my goal that this channel reminds everybody the importance of storytelling, and especially immersive fiction. And with that, I am going to end this video. Wow, I went into a very long tirade about that. I am so sorry. I really should start writing out scripts and notes and everything. But it's probably a good thing that I don't. I mean, like, it's just, like, I would rather my... outside. Oh dear. I was having a hard time remembering where I was going with that last thought. But yeah, I would rather these videos not be scripted at all, because I would like to get the hell in my head out, and sharing the chaos and everything is probably one of my favorite things to do. If I can get you thinking about something that you wouldn't normally think about, I'm having a very good day. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and to listen to me for a good 30 to 45 minutes. I am so sorry that this video was that long, but it was all in a good, and it was all coming from a good place and everything. I wanted to talk about storytelling and how influential it has been, and for some reason a lot of people seem to forget that, and I worry for these people. If you guys liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and also share this with other inspiring writers and everything. Please, because I know that there are people who don't think that they have the capacity to be a writer, and I'm trying to prove these people wrong and say that you can follow your dreams of being a writer. All it takes is practice and the honing of your craft. A plug-in here at the end, please, if you are interested, go and get the pre-order for the ebook Seraphim Awakening, and also to sort of go into a little bit for the giveaway. I'm pretty much doing the exact same thing that I did this year, in that I will keep a list of whoever comments their username down in the description below, and I will order a number of books and basically sign those and send those out to people, hopefully to where they get it either by January 3rd or shortly after January 3rd. But either way, this is the first book in the Seraphim trilogy, and it is the sequel trilogy to Arboriah Lux. If you've not read Arboriah Lux yet, I may get some other copies of those as well, and you may actually end up getting sort of a two for one. I think. I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to set up my website to where I can basically take orders and to basically get the books and put little care packages together. But I'm still trying to work that out. If you would like to continue supporting me, whether it be through buying my books or liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing my videos, you can also leave me a tip at Ko-Fi. Ko-Fi is a website that basically allows you to give tips that are not subscription based, and you can basically put a little bread in the jar for your favorite content creators and everything. And I sort of like that, in a sense that that people like me enough to pay for my stuff, but I don't have anybody giving tips yet. So that's it. I guess it technically doesn't matter. I mean, like, I'm still starting out and I'm still busy with so much other stuff. It's just beside the point. I'm doing this for fun at this point. If you also want to support me and my channel, of course, besides doing all the stuff that I mentioned before, you can also go to the Printify store that I have down in the description below, along with my Ko-Fi link, and you can there you can go and buy any of the merch that I have created specifically for Arboriah Lux. I am going to be creating some stuff for the Seraphim trilogy, but because the Seraphim trilogy is like is 3 books and everything, I'm going to have to space it out. But I have a lot to work with in Seraphim Awakening, so I'm looking forward to this. I'll get you guys more updates as soon as I come up with some more designs for Seraphim Awakening, and you can probably get those updates at any of my social links down below. Besides the wonderful world of YouTube, where I sometimes make announcement posts on here, I also have a Facebook page an author page on Facebook, along with a writers group. I also have Twitter/x.com. I have Instagram, and I also have TikTok. I recently put up the new trailer that you've probably seen here on my channel up on TikTok, and within the first, I think, 15 minutes, it reached over 500 views. So I was like, yay! But it's yeah. Also, for those of you wondering where the future episodes of Inside the Writer's Mind are coming from, if you don't even remember those, I will say this: they will be renewed. My mom recently bought me a green screen background for my birthday, and I'm trying to find a place to actually put it so that I can actually do these videos. It's going to be very, very exciting. It's just I'm very, very busy. And speaking of my writers group that I have on Facebook and everything, I also have a Discord server. Please, if you are interested, go to the link below, find my Discord server link, and come and join the fun. Come and join the chaos. All the people from my D&D group are on there, and we just have a high old time there. And along with any of our D&D Discord servers. So yeah, just come and have fun. Come and bring life to the Magic Library. And also, before I get out of here, please, thank you so much, Dark Shade Nephilim, for your little shout out in the description of your latest video. I really, really appreciate it. It was such a surprise too, and I also still enjoy watching your gameplays and everything. I have fun with those. So I'm going to do everything here in kind, and if you people would so very much be inclined, please go to Dark Shade Nephilim and show him some love as well, and follow him on here on YouTube and also on Twitch, because he does some very high-spirited Twitch streams, and I like sort of being there to sort of just. I like being there to sort of not only, I won't say distract him from his gameplay, but I will I like to converse with him. So it's very fun. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I really suck at doing the ends of these videos. This is Kat the Growing Author here at the Magic Library, and I will see you in the next one, whenever that one may be. Bye guys.